Those are just but a few of the numerous cases of wrangles witnessed in at least 10 county assemblies this year. Majority of the fights are about the impeachment of the county speakers or a conflict between the county assembly and the executive. Some confrontations were so crude that the title honorable did not hold meaning at all. And when members of County Assemblies Forum appeared before the Senate Committee on Devolution, they declined an offer for the senators to mediate. In fact, the MCAs wanted the Senate to keep off the affairs of the assemblies.
Clearly providing the impeachment proceedings. And the assemblies will be required to do their standing orders in line with the regulations.
Say you want to oversight the assemblies. I have a problem. I have a real problem. You can't be a big brother. The Senate cannot surely be a big brother. Let us be, because we want also to grow through our challenges and our problems, so that we learn. But put measures that are going to guide us, not to gag us.
On the short note, I shall be speaking to Machakos County Assembly Speaker Florence Mwangangi, Kisumu County Assembly Majority Leader Kenneth Anyango, who will be joining the show live from our Kisumu studios, and Governor Sonko's political advisor Abel Ayeyo Onchari. But before I engage them, let's now cross over live to our lead reporter Sophia Nuna, who is in our city center studios with more on the day's big story. Sophia.
Indeed, a very good evening to you, Michelle. Some of the words to describe the actions that we have just played this evening and Kenyans have been able to witness in the recent past is dishonorable conduct, disgraceful, and it has been one of those things that really inexplicable in as far as how members who have been voted in. We have 1,450 MCAs, and of course there's the nominated ones as well around the country. But in various of these counties, we've been seeing these scenes play out. Violent, physical fights is what it has gotten to, that instead of being able to discuss disagreements, engage in a noble, honorable fashion as their names indicate and how they would want to be referred to, many of these members disagree to the extent of getting to blows. And in some instances, you remember in 2014, gunshots fired, 4 people were wounded at the time, and it was when then Governor Kivuta Kibwana had disagreements with the MCAs at the time. And I'll just run you through some of the scenarios you've seen play out. Nakuru County as well, an issue around the majority leader and whether he should continue to stay in office, and another one who other members wanted to be sworn in. That degenerated to kicks and blows as well. In Kisumu, MCAs as well, the county assembly there, over an issue about the impeachment of the governor. Some quarters, some individuals had wanted the governor impeached again. Fists and blows is what we started to see. In Nyeri County, there was an incident like that, again, ugly incidents. But in Nakuru County, there was also one over a man, that 2 female members of county assemblies started fighting over a man in the assembly precincts. So it's a case after another. And the most worrying thing is that this completely goes against the express provisions of Article 6, integrity in terms of members of parliament and these public servants, so that members are required to act in a fashion that is honorable to the office they hold. And so when they act in this way and nothing is done to them, it begs the question, then for how long will we continue seeing these kind of questions? And you remember, Michelle, we saw a Deputy Chief Justice, former, that's Nancy Baraza, lose her job over that incident of pinching a nose. That's when we saw very vibrant execution and interpretation of the Article 6 because of the integrity and honor of that office, and that every action you do needs to be commensurate with the kind of requirement and standard the public trust has in these individuals. And so that this continues unabated, we now continue to just report and tell these stories as just dramatic scenes, and then moving on without any accountability is a huge area of concern. And so in a short while, I will be speaking with Samson Cherargei. He is the Nandi senator. He also is the chair chairperson of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee in the Senate. So he'll be joining me in just a short while because there are concerns around oversight. Who oversights MCAs and how do you recall them? Remember, the law speaks about recalling of members of parliament. However, when it comes to oversight for MCAs, we are not clear about what the law says on that. But here he is with me now. Thank you for making time for us, Bonachara Gay. Let's begin with, are you concerned? I mean, we were just showing, and I'm sure in the past you've seen whether it's Nairobi County, the Firifiri incident, and the speaker's then impeached office, and various counties, probably 11 at this particular point. Guns are drawn. Even police are called to ensure these people do not harm each other. Does this worry you?
It worries me a lot because I think the latest is Baringo County today. Yeah. The other day was Homa Bay, Nairobi. On last week, we did meet and agree that there are so many issues that we need to sit and agree. But I think we want to urge our MCAs also, they need to be leaders with decorum because you don't need to fight your speakers. By the way, speakers are the creator of MCAs. I know speakers have the pleasure of the MCAs, but that one does not mean we stabilize. Because, Sophia, when you look at the role of MCAs is supposed to be oversight, to checks and balances to county government, legislation, approval of development plans, according to the County Government Act. But the problem now, they are now diverting to something else that is less important to Kenyan, and that is fighting. And I agree it is uncalled for that you have to call in police in a parliamentary setting. Yet we can iron. That is why we are leaders. We have a forum. But I think the problem that MCAs suffer is the nuclear option. They don't have alternative dispute resolutions. That's why you find them, the only thing they want to vent their frustration, it is remove the speaker. And then the nuclear option is very dangerous because most of our county assemblies are still young. We need to give them capacity. And you know, Senate has been very supportive. Through CAR, we even added them 30 billion Kenya shillings to improve on terms of capacity and discharging their mandate as according to the Constitution and the County Governments Act.
We've seen several counties very vibrant and active when it comes to what you call part of their mandate, which is accountability with governors, threatening impeachment. And even many of these fights is usually about either a speaker, a governor, or money that they want allocated to a particular project and it doesn't go their way, so they get frustrated. But who oversights them? The governors nowadays, allegedly some governors are using MCAs as part of their public relations guru in terms of development at the grassroots level. The reason governors can use stick and carrot is because, as we talk today, under the PMF Act and during the transitional authority, all the money is managed by the CC in charge of finance at the county executive. It means if MCAs wants car grant or car loans, the person who should approve is the governor. It means he choose and pick when to force MCAs to do or some of these things. And that is why, in fact, one of our recommendations is that we need to create a revenue account for the county assemblies. The reason, even the Auditor General do audit the clerk. So at the end of the day, why should we use a CC in charge of finance? Where now, when you remember Machakos, I think it was also some other country, that they stayed for 3 months, with 3 years without salaries because, Makueni, because at that time, some governors feel they are oversighting too much, so let us use the only option that we have by restricting the usage of, releasing some of the funds to assist in the discharge of the MCA's mandate. So there is that risk that some governors who even do not want to be oversighted or held to account will use that to keep the MCAs away. But the question, who oversights the MCAs? Like what they are doing, this monkey business in the house, which is very unfortunate, despicable. Who should call them out for this?
No, that is why, Senate, we have stepped in not to supervise MCAs, but as we are trying to create alternative dispute resolution. We are trying to be the big brother. We are trying to be the arbiter. But what we said is that we cannot legislate relationship between the speakers and the MCAs. But we are trying, that is why MCAs are resisting, saying that the Senate wants to supervise them. We are very busy with our work, but we just step in to try and stabilize devolution because we are in the second generation of devolution. It means it's one arm of the devolution in terms of county assemblies and stable is very unfortunate, but it is so sad that some of the governors are making sure that the county assemblies are not stable. so that it can give them to do their monkey business. And that is why the laws that we are trying to bring through the impeachment procedure bill, through regulations that we might look at Section 11 in terms of impeachment of the Speaker of County Governments Act, we are trying to include some of the regulations so that we can ensure at least we stabilize some of these issues. But I agree, in as much as when you know MCAs are supposed to oversight because they don't access funds. Their work as creation by Article 176 of the Constitution, all on the chapter of devolution, is they are supposed to do oversight on behalf. But you know now when they become unruly or rogue the way they are, that is when Senate now we come because we are partners in devolution and we protect Article 96 of the Constitution. Is say we protect the interests of the counties, and therefore we are trying to come in and try to stabilize the situation. But we have realized part of stabilizing the situation is, apart from making sure that when impeachment of a speaker is done, comes to the Senate, we have also improved. Because, for example, as I conclude that part, is that you find like Omagh Bay County Assembly, they amended standing orders at 11. They have notified the speaker that she needs to defend herself. At 2, they are impeaching the speaker.
Same thing that happened in Nairobi. They amended and did not even listen to Elachi.
That is what happens also. So, because when you look at Section 11 on the County Governments Act, it says it doesn't give a timeline. So we want to include a subsidiary legislation where it is now possible to say, let us use 7 days, where you give even, principles of natural justice, is that you hear both sides. Say that if you have to, it should have been even 7 days to defend ourselves, the next 7 days to do a procedure of impeachment. And I think those are some of the proposals we are trying to bring in.
I think for Wanjiku, the most worrisome thing about all this is that the issues that see this violence, because it is violence. You see them throwing a mace out of the window and kicks and blows. It's not Wanjiku issues. It's about, we want this money going to this thing. We want this person moved here and there. So that this chapter 6, but clearly that's falling flat in the face of chapter 6. They are not acting in a manner that fits the office they hold. So there should be a consequence, because all these things are captured on camera, but they get away with it. So how, because they've also said they do not want you as Senate to oversight them. So how do we make sure going forward, MCA, any of these people who do these things, and perhaps they're learning a little bit of what we see in the National Assembly, there are consequences?
No, there are two options, if you ask me, because there is recall clause. So it means
it's there for MCAs?
It's there for MCAs and members of parliament. So if Wanjiku feel that the leader they elected is behaving in an unruly way that is not the standard of an elected leader, they can be removed.
Allow me to interject. That recall, even the one for parliament, it cannot be that you're recalling, but the one you're recalling also sits to decide whether to recall them. It's flawed, and you would admit that.
Of course, under the Elections Act and the laws that govern on the issue of recall clause, even the Constitution, I think that is now, that those are some of the things that are legal parameters that we need to now to look and maybe fine-tune. But one of the prescriptive remedy that the Constitution has provided is maybe recall clause. Because you're asking me, what happens when the Wanjiku does not feel comfortable when they see the behavior of some of the elected leaders? The option they have is they cannot go to court. The option they have is the recall clause. And then number 2, internally, we have powers and privileges committees within the county assembly. The way the powers and privileges committee works in the parliament should work in the county assembly. Aside that, if an MCA behaves in a manner that is unbecoming of a leader, the powers and privileges, you remember as we talk, I'm informed that the Speaker of the National Assembly are retreating maybe to Mombasa at the end of the week to look at the report on the allegations of where MPs received 10,000 bribe. And those are the role of such is being chaired by the Speaker, and that is where Powers and Privileges Committee should sit down. Number 3, I have seen when court orders were given, and coincidentally, it's very sad that most of the speakers that have been impeached are women. I don't know what is happening. But coincidentally, the courts have issued court orders in Nairobi case and in Omagh Bay case. What happens now, if the MCAs cannot obey court orders, then there is now the issue of contemption, being contemptuous against the court, contempt of court, and it is punishable by law. But I want to insist, it's not about so much about legal. It is the personal relationship of the speakers and MCAs. Finally, yesterday when we met some of the MCAs, and I think your media house was there, most MCAs complain that the speakers allegedly, I don't know places, they used to threaten them. I've called the president, I've called so and so, I've called so many powerful people. So they end up intimidating the MCAs. Speakers no longer realize that they are creation of the MCAs, and that is where now it's about relationship. It's about how you carry yourself as a speaker, because at the end of, finally, on the impeachment procedure bill, we had a lot of pressure to include the impeachment of speakers. You remember in the impeachment procedure bill that is ongoing in Senate, the reason even, let me use the example of a governor, the reason we created public participation in the impeachment of the governors is because the governors serve at the pleasure of the voters. The reason we didn't include in the aspect of the speakers is because the speakers serve at the pleasure of the MCAs. It means they fall by the sword of the MCAs. Yeah. And that is why we can't include, maybe directly we can do transition maybe with the Senate. That's why we can't include the public, because the public were never involved in electing of the speaker. Yeah. It is the MCAs who are the ones who elect the speakers, and that is why they serve at the pleasure. That's why many people would ask why in the impeachment procedure bill we only included the president, deputy president, governor, deputy governor, cabinet secretaries and CCs, but we didn't include, finally, under the county government's amendment bill that is in the National Assembly, we are now trying to create the office of the deputy speaker at county assembly, so that in case there is a vacancy in any incident of the speaker, we have deputy speaker stepping in and stabilizing the county assembly.
Yes. Many thanks, Samson.
Karibu.
Chair Argay, he's the senator, Nandi County, also chair of JLAC in the Senate. And as you've heard there, yes, there's the recall clause, but as we have seen in the past, I don't think in our history we can't speak of a time that has actually happened with Wanjiku being able to recall members, because it does go back to them to decide on whether, in fact, to take that kind of action. And so, Michelle, what's unfortunate, because people will disagree, will have different ideas, but that it boils down to violence scenarios that we keep seeing playing out and no consequences means perhaps we'll continue to see more of this, and that even what they are fighting about many times, Michelle, has nothing to do with what Wanjiku needs being provided for services, and that accountability, you heard in that clip earlier, they're saying they do not want oversight from Senate. Senate can create legislation, but yeah, while they continue to play out with the drama we see, Michelle.
Quite the drama there. Thank you, Sophia. Let's look at some of the counties that have experienced the chaos firsthand. And we begin to look at Homa Bay County, one of the most recent counties there. On the 1st of November this year, in Homa Bay County, the Speaker, Elizabeth Oyo, was impeached. She was accused of lack of integrity as well as leadership skills. And later on the 6th of November, the Labour Court reinstated the Speaker, a move that further saw members of the Homa Bay County Assembly fighting over the Speaker's return. Again, some of those wrangles witnessed within the county assemblies leave the term honourable to question. The second county there, Kakamega County, witnessed wrangles on the 16th of October this year, with the Speaker, Maurice Buluma, being ousted. The wrangles also saw the clerk there, Patrick Ofula, as well as a finance boss, Laban Atemba, removed as MCAs claimed that the Speaker had failed to approve their mortgages. Many more counties had wrangles that were witnessed this week. We'll be taking a look at them in the course of the show. Tonight, I shall be speaking to the Machakos County Assembly Speaker, Florence Mwangangi, as well as Kisumu County Assembly Majority Leader, Kenneth Nyango, who will be joining the show live from our Kisumu studios. Ladies and gentlemen, many thanks for joining us on the show tonight. Florence, I'd like to begin with you. You serve as the Machakos County Assembly Speaker. Wrangles have been witnessed in more than 10 county assemblies this year alone. Many of the wrangles seem to be with MCAs protesting or asking for the impeachment of county speakers. There seems to be a big disconnect between members of county assemblies and the county speakers. What seems to be the problem? Florence, good evening.
Good evening to you.
All right, many thanks for joining us on the show. You are the Machakos County Assembly Speaker. What seems to be the bone of contention between members of county assemblies and the county speakers, as witnessed in many wrangles witnessed this year?
Thank you very much. There are several reasons, and perhaps just to start on the first one, you notice that left on their own, speakers and members of the county assemblies, I believe, would not have any serious problems that cannot be resolved internally. Mm-hmm. You appreciate that the MCAs elected the speakers, and they found leaders in them at the time of elections. It doesn't mean that down the line, the speakers have failed or have lost those qualities of leadership. Mm-hmm. So obviously, there is a possibility of outside interference in the relationship between speakers and MCAs.
Right. But I mean, let's take a look at what happened just this week and last week alone. The County Assemblies Forum just this week told the Senate in front of this devolution committee to keep off the affairs of the county assemblies. But last week, we actually had county assembly speakers appealing to the Senate to shield them from impeachment from rogue MCAs. Some county assembly speakers even went ahead to say that MCAs have been blackmailing them to get lucrative foreign and benchmarking trips. Would you still say that is external interference?
I think there's a lot of misinformation about the operations of county assemblies. And you notice that what is being hyped about when MCAs ask for money is that they want to go for benchmarking, they want to go for trips, they want to go for training.
Right.
Nobody is talking about the need to train them. You appreciate that most of them are new in their jobs. Are you going to let them carry on serving the public without training? Is there any employer who doesn't provide for training for their employees? And then again, the issue of the Senate. I want to believe that there is also misinformation and misreporting as to the position taken by the MCAs. The Constitution is very clear. The County Governments Act is very clear, and other laws are clear. The Senate definitely has an oversight role over county assemblies.
Right.
And that is why when the county assemblies have issues, the first point of call would be the Senate. So I wouldn't see any MCA as such saying or telling the Senate, keep off. It is not proper.
All right, so you deny, that this was said by the committee there. But let's talk about the fact that the issue of oversight has been at question because MCAs, it's differing differing opinions here, but MCAs have spoken to the media saying the Senate has no role of oversight over members of county assembly. In fact, most say that speakers serve the interests of the governors because it is the governors who place them there. That seems to be the bone of contention between...
Did you say they serve the governors that put in office? The speakers were not put in office by the governors.
All right. So that cannot be the bone of contention.
Can I just tell you the actual position?
Go ahead, please.
Speakers are usually elected by the MCAs. And as I indicated, that when the MCAs were electing speakers, they must have seen leadership qualities in the particular speaker. And usually, if there is a dispute, unless there is an external force, those disputes are usually resolved.
All right.
Now, for a start, there is no existing internal dispute resolution mechanisms in assemblies between speakers and MCAs. So that the first time there is a dispute, the first thing to do is impeachment. And what I would propose is that there be some mechanisms, of course regulated, so that then if there is a dispute between speakers and MCAs, it can be resolved internally, even before you think of impeachment.
Right.
Impeachment should be the last resort, and only when all other mechanisms have failed. And I think you've noted that where these disputes have arisen, even the other leaders in the particular areas come in. Like you noted the case of Nyandarua, that some CSs even came in, and they tried to resolve the matter, and actually it was resolved. So I'm not saying that the speakers are serving at the whim of the MCAs,
right.
because again, they also have independence of minds. And if they didn't have the independence of minds, then you'd have a robot for a speaker. Which would be very dangerous for the assembly, because the speaker must be able to lead and then stand firm also when matters are not going well. And if there's anything wrong being done by the MCAs, he or she should be able to tell them on their face that this is not right, so that then they amend whatever is wrong.
So where does that leave us? To be a bit more clear, where does that leave the impeachment of the county speaker? Do you agree with the amendment to allow the Senate to handle the impeachment procedure, or should it be left to the county assemblies on their own?
You see, what we are asking for and what anyone should ask for is a second tier of the process. As it is now, once a speaker is impeached by the county assembly, the matter ends there.
Right.
But you see, even in the Constitution and the Fair Administrative Action Act, there is a need for a second chance for any person who is accused of any wrongdoing,
right.
so that you are tried in the first level, and then you have an appeal in the second level. And let me just say this. The position of the Speaker is very critical because it's all about the independence of the Assembly. And so that if we do not guard the positions of the speakers, it means that you have very weak assemblies and you can forget about oversight role, particularly over the executive. You can forget about achieving the principles of devolution if you don't have strong assemblies. Of course, they also have to observe the principle of separation of powers so that there is no unnecessary interference with the executive. But then the executive must submit to oversight by the assemblies.
All right, well, let's bring in Kisumu County Assembly Majority Leader Kenneth Onyango, who is joining us live from our Kisumu studios. Many thanks for your time on the big story tonight. Kisumu County has not been left out of the counties that have witnessed wrangles this year. Among the issues was the impeachment of the county speaker. There seems to be a big disconnect between members of county assembly and the county speakers. What's your take on the matter?
Thank you. I want to say that there has been a misconception that we try to impeach the speaker. I think that is not true. What really happened is that the speaker did stage manage his own impeachment. And actually, that is the genesis of chaos that we witnessed in Kisumu.
Right.
What we had intended to do, really. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello?
Go ahead.
What we had intended to do was to recall two of our members who are in the Assembly Service Board because we felt that they were not representing us in a fair manner. They were not taking care of our issues at the Assembly Board. And the members unanimously resolved to recall them.
Right.
But the Speaker misconstrued this as an intended impeachment on him. And therefore he sneaked in an impeachment motion that had not been discussed in the House Business Committee. It did not follow the Constitution and even our standing orders. So that is what we protested against, and it is what made the Assembly to appear as if they were infighting.
All right, let's just pause it there. We've been speaking there to Kenneth Onyango, who is the Kisumu County Assembly Majority Leader. We'll be coming back with this conversation as we probe who takes the role of oversight over county assemblies in the country, with wrangles being